Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Mile High Huddle here at Sports Illustrated. I am your host, Kim Becker, and joining me is ESPN College Football analyst Jim Mora Jr. Jim, we're going to jump right into this and talk about the whole quarterback situation with the Denver Broncos. Obviously, the media, fan bases, even the team has been wondering if Drew Lock is going to be the guy here for the 2021 season. So, in your opinion, what do you think the Denver Broncos should do? Should they stick with Lock? Should they shoot high for someone like Deshaun Watson, maybe draft a guy? What are your thoughts?
Well, I think those three options are probably still on the table. My concern with Drew Lock is if you move on from him, do you have a body of work large enough to make the determination that he's not your guy? Conversely, do you have the body of work that indicates that he is your guy? And I don't think that they have the body of work to be able to evaluate them, which I think puts them in a really tough spot. Certainly Deshaun Watson is going to add value to any team. I mean, the things that he can do on the football field, the value he brings, his skill, his talent level is off the charts, but you have to weigh the cost benefit. To get a guy like Deshaun Watson, you're going to have to give up a lot. And when you're a team that's trying to build, like the Denver Broncos are trying to build, giving up draft picks, giving up players, creating other holes to create space to get Deshaun Watson, that's very, very risky. As good as he may be, it may not be enough to overcome the holes that you've created, having to make that acquisition. I'm a big fan of Mac Jones. I like Mac Jones. I do believe in his body of work as opposed to Drew Lock's, and I have respect for Drew Lock. The body of work was at a different level. It was at the collegiate level, but it was at Alabama, and it was so consistent. So I don't know what they're going to do. I don't think anyone knows what they're going to do. It all comes down to how they feel about Drew Lock. It really does. And I don't know that we're not going to get the true indication of that until they either go and figure out a way to get Deshaun, or they draft at number 9 and pick Mac Jones. And on that day, we're going to have a very, very clear picture of what they think of Drew Lock. So that's the key right there.
Yeah, I feel like all we've been talking about is all these hypothetical situations. And, we've been talking over at Mile High Huddle about when any quarterback becomes available, or even just in the slightest might become available, the Denver Broncos fan base is just like scraping at the bottom of the barrel, being like, let's get him. But
isn't that fun?
Seriously.
It's not fun if you're Drew Lock and you have to listen to all this speculation, And here's the other thing: he hasn't played much, not just a few years ago, quarterbacks were given a chance to develop. They sat behind a great player, they learned the game, they learned how to prepare. They got some reps late in games, or they got a lot of preseason time, and then they were given a little bit of a grace period. Nowadays, we are right. Hey, we want results right now. And that's a tough thing for a guy like Drew Lock coming into the league, or any of these other young quarterbacks that have, a couple of deficiencies they have to overcome.
Yeah, you hear people compare Drew Lock to Patrick Mahomes or, Tom Brady. I'm like, what are you guys doing?
Don't do that.
Don't do that. Completely different situation, completely different player. But yeah, I agree. Drew Lock, especially with this 2020 season and not having, the off season that they're used to having, all those reps before the season actually started. And then the Denver Broncos had that 1 week where they had 0 quarterbacks available because, Rippon and Lock and Driscoll were all off, and Kendall Hinton had to jump in. So that's got to mess with your head too. But I think people say that about Drew Lock as well, that he's in his head a little bit. He needs to kind of get over that emotions, but he's young, right?
Yeah, I think that's hard for young quarterbacks. I don't think they understand the volatility of the NFL and how critical people are immediately of their performance. People, when you're getting paid the way these guys are getting paid, and you're dealing with people that have the passion that they have towards their team, you have to have some thick skin, and you have to be able to compartmentalize things. And you can't, like you said, you can't get in your own head and start to overanalyze. You have to stay focused. I think a great indicator of that is a guy like Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield was so highly not criticized, but critiqued, his first couple of years, and even into this year. And then the last 10 games, he just caught fire. So I think that the whole key here is what are the Denver Broncos doing to help Drew Lock? And if they're not doing it to help him, then it shows that, hey, maybe we're ready to move on from him. Now, nobody's going to know him better than they do. They're with him, 8 to 10 hours a day, all day, every day during the season. Certainly they didn't get the off-season work last year. Hopefully they do this year. But they've got a big decision to make, and they've got some great options. So that's a positive.
Well, Jim, hopefully you and I will be able to talk about this decision once it has been made 100%, coming up here in the next couple of months. But I appreciate you taking the time today. Thank you so much on your thoughts on Drew Lock and everybody else in this situation, and we will chat soon.
My pleasure, Kim. Take care.